Hey guys, before I start part 2 of this video, I just wanted to go over something that I realized as I was rewatching part 1. I think I was assuming a little bit about some of your knowledge, and I just don't want to do that. I want to make sure that it's a complete understanding of what I was talking about. And what I think I assumed was your knowledge of the piano. You might see one behind me, but what I want to do is put the piano right down below me so you can see what I'm talking about right when I am explaining it. So as you can see with the piano down below here, instead of it being overwhelming, which is like what I thought it was when I was little and had no understanding of what the piano was, I thought it was just so many keys and how could you ever comprehend that? If you break it down into each section, you realize it's really only 7 notes, or 8 if you count the other C on the other end. It's 7 notes that repeat over and over and over again. So you have 88 keys, but it's really these groupings of the same notes that repeat. And so if you see it, it's C, D, E, F, G, A, B. But there's those black keys in between them. Those black keys can symbolize a sharp. So if you go from C up a half step, which is one note, that'll go C, C sharp. Instead of C right to D, it goes C, C sharp. Same thing, if you go from G up a half step, it's G sharp, not A. Or A flat, depending on how you're looking at it. Depending on the context, you might call it an A flat or a G sharp, depending on what key you're in. One other thing I talked about in the first video was what's called a triad, a chord triad. And in the key of C, that triad is a C note, an E note, and a G note. I'm going to put that right down there. In order to make that chord a minor, you take that note in the middle, the E, the third note, and you drop it a half step, which is an E flat or a D sharp, depending on how you're looking at it. Then that becomes a C minor chord. So I'm going to talk about that on how to form it on the guitar in just a second. But I wanted you just to know on a piano, that's what you're doing. You're taking that note and you're dropping it a half step down. I'll show you one more. In the key of D, it's a D, an F sharp, and an A. If you want to make that a minor, you take the F sharp and you drop it to an F. So I hope that clarifies a few things. Let's get on to the rest of this video. So the last part of the video I'd love to show you is making those shapes, the same exact triads I just showed you, minor. And we'll start with the first position, okay? Here's the C major triad. In order to make it minor, remember we said it's made up of 3 notes. You take the middle note and you drop it a half step. So here's a C major. So happens that this is the middle note, which is the E. We need to take that E and drop it a half step, which makes it an E flat. Okay? So this is now a minor shape. If you're forming a minor shape, you can take the same shape and then apply it. So hey, I want to do a D minor. Let's go up here then. And then you have to do this. Because it used to be this, remember? Major, minor, major, minor. Okay, same thing applies then for the A triad. So it happens that this note right here is in the A, that's the C sharp, because remember this is a B, C, C sharp. So here's the major triad, here's the minor triad. So now the same thing applies. If you are doing a, let's say a B major, and you want to make it minor, just like we move this one here, normally it's like this. We have to move that middle one down like this. Okay, so that makes that a minor shape. So you want to take any of these and make it a minor. This is a D major. Now let's make it a minor. We add that on the B string. And you notice the difference between a major and minor. This one sounds kind of dark. The major sounds bright. Okay, same thing then for the G shape. Take the middle note, which is going to be the B, which in this case is right here, and you move it down a half step. So you hear the kind of minor sound. So now the same thing applies then. This, just like that C shape, similarly, if we want to form let's say an A minor shape, then we could do this. Okay, and this is all using the G first position chord knowledge. The regular one is this, because this is the G shape, remember? Okay, the next one is going to be the E, which is probably the most used one. Here's the E major. In order to make it minor, you drop the middle note, which in this case is the G sharp. The G sharp is right here because this is a G string and I'm sharping it. So in order to make this configuration minor, I drop this note a half step, which in this case just means pulling this finger off. This is E major, this is E minor. E minor. So then the same thing applies. This is a G major chord. To make it minor, you just pull off that middle finger and let the bar hold it. Major, minor. Okay, the last one is really cool as well. Here's the D major triad, which is a D, an F sharp, and an A. In order to make this minor, you take that middle note, which is an F sharp, and you drop it a half step. So in this instance, the F sharp is happening right here. And we want to drop it to here. So you kind of have to shift your fingers a little bit to make this work. So this is a minor triad in the D configuration. So then knowing that, I can take this D major triad, but I've moved it up to the E position. So D, D sharp, E. So this is E major. I can make it minor by doing that same position. That's really cool, which means wherever you are on the neck, you can take those first position chords, make them major, make them minor, and I'm sure at a different time I'll show you some other cool things that you can do, whether that's suspending them or augmenting them, other things like that. But for now, 5 major chords, and now I've also shown you 5 minor chords, because all of those can become minor by dropping that middle note down a half step. When you're learning new chords, you will recognize these other positions. So for instance, a B minor, a lot of people play it like this. This is really an A minor shaped bar chord because that A major triad is just minor now. So the reason I showed you those 5 is because those 5 you can apply to any chord that you're doing. Sometimes when those open strings work out, you can do things like this, which this is a G major. You can move it up to the C position up here. And then here's a D. Because normally in a G, you leave those open. So it just happens to work. Another thing that's fun is this D. You can bring it up to the G position. So I'm playing a D, G, A, back to a G. And here's the cool thing. I know that in the scale I can go G, A, B minor, which now I know the minor triad if I go up here. So here's that minor triad. Up here, that's forming a B minor. Those 3 notes. A, G, and then back. Really cool stuff, guys. I hope this helps. I hope this encourages you to keep learning and growing in your craft. Make sure you keep a lookout for the next video, and we'll see you there.